everybody, and welcome back to the internet's best reactions. Today we are discussing, going through the memes of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, or Imola Grand Prix for short, where Ferrari had an amazing race. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But let's dive into your reactions, which are amazing as always, right now. At Crazy Shadow 303, the Tifosi on the formation lap. We're talking about it before it's even begun. The smoke flares were out. It was pretty comparable to Zandvoort. The Ferrari fandom was out in full force. You could see seas of red in all of the grandstands. So I'm really glad it went well. At L_dude Ico, we're now diving into the race, lap 1 of course. Carlos Sainz cannot catch a break. So of course, you got Carlos Sainz, who did a decent recovery drive yesterday when he managed to get back up to P4 for today's race. And then, was not a great start off the right-hand side. Both Charles Leclerc and himself not getting away particularly well. Danny Ric fancies a slice in that McLaren, and fair play to him. However, Carlos tries to sweep it round the outside. Danny Ric just gets unsettled that tiny bit off the apex of turn 2, slides into Carlos ever so slightly, and they both have one of the slowest, most pathetic crashes ever. It was really unlucky, but it happened. Carlos then gets beached in the gravel. I mean, it's obviously incredibly unlucky. P4 though, you're always asking for trouble being a little bit further back from the front, but still, unbelievably unlucky for Carlos Sainz. At Mr. Aidan Rule, not again. So this is an editor of ours, actually. Aidan, well done. Nice meme. Welcome to pain. Pain for Carlos. Because he knows, as I've said previously in podcasts and other internet special reactions, he knows he's got a car that he can win. That he can win championships in. Or a championship at least. But every opportunity he seems to get just either squandered where he makes a mistake, or the car's not right, or it's broken, or whatever, and it just has not worked out for him in these first 4 races. But look, Imola's done. Miami's coming up next. You've got some big upgrades coming to that Ferrari. Fingers crossed they'll still be towards the front, and Carlos can eventually get that maiden win. That's what we all want to see, is Carlos getting that P1 so he can feel a bit better in himself. But with the contract, he's signed till the end of 2024. He's got plenty of time. Moving on to other cars on lap 1, at Flick Floof, Magnussen and Russell sneaking into P5 and P6 Yeah, of course, Magnussen, who did amazing in Friday qualifying, then fell a little bit back in the sprint, but then came straight back to the front again, or near the front, at the start of Sunday. And George Russell, can we just take a moment? I know we try and keep it in a decent chronological order, but George Russell's performance today was sensational. I'm sorry, I know that you might be thinking, blah, 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 Lewis Hamilton got caught up in traffic or whatever, but you have to say Lewis had a pretty awful race. He couldn't get through Gasly. Gasly was stuck behind Albon for, I think he's still stuck behind him, maybe at the airport, is Hamilton on Gasly, because he could not get through at all. And you don't usually see that from Lewis Hamilton, especially in a changeable condition race. But back to George Russell. Unbelievable. He's had a brilliant start to his Mercedes career. I know he's not fighting for firsts and podiums really that much, but he's done brilliantly. You can't deny it. At Formula Ryan 21, Alonso's Alpine right now. Of course, Mick Schumacher, by the way, Mick Schumacher had a beautiful start as well from 10th on the grid, but just lost the back end and then spun, and then his left rear hit the side of Fernando Alonso's car, and Alonso, I think, was fighting Hamilton at the time, and then it just disappeared. The side pod just went, nope, I don't want to be part of this car anymore, and that was it. It's a shame. I want to see Fernando Alonso getting some luck. Of course, he had that problem in Australia, which then forced him to start, well, he fell backwards in Australia, didn't he? But then also just not being able to get stuck in. We want to see Fernando with his aggressive driving style getting stuck in, especially in crazy races like that. But unfortunately for him, it was lights out, and, well, not away he goes, but away he goes into the pits. At Formula 2 Insider, seeing Alonso and Hamilton battle for position on track. No, I mean, it was cool. It was cool to see Alonso and Hamilton. It was also cool to see Hamilton and Vettel. I think they were starting next to each other on the grid, although we don't really get to see all too much of those battling because, of course, the focus is at the front. But, yeah, the fight between Alonso and Hamilton was nowhere near as good as what we saw in Hungary. But still, nice to see the two champions fight for a small wee while. All right, we've actually got another Carlos Sainz meme. I'm sorry, Carlos fans, but we're going to have to do this one. At Jeffrey Nedeloff, Carlos Sainz's Imola GP with Ferrari. I receive a new contract. You receive a horrible weekend. A bit similar to Ocon, really, where he signed a massive deal with Alpine, and I think he then just got knocked out in Q1 quite a few times and was just having a pretty terrible run. It's very similar for Carlos. At Byron Erd, the drivers avoiding the dry line right now. Of course, we had changeable conditions. We had it raining a few hours before the race and the track was still wet when we begun. And you're thinking this is beautifully poised for us to have a fantastic race. But not every single time does a wet race mean a great race. And I think we saw that today. Yeah, there were some moments where it was interesting. Of course, Charles Leclerc hitting the wall. Yes, I will react to that a little bit later, don't you worry. But, generally speaking, it wasn't a worldie by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the things they had to do, which was a bit weird to watch for us as viewers, is how extreme they had to go offline to try and find some water. And the problem was certain parts of the track, especially in that last sector, was really wet, so they couldn't really transition onto dries as soon as maybe they would have, because a lot of the other parts of the track was quite dry. At Salah Tahini, nobody. All of the F1 cars on the straight. We're still talking about porpoising 4 races in, and it feels like it's going to be a year of the porpoise, to be honest with you, because it seems like they're no closer to fixing the issues, although the likes of Alfa Romeo don't seem to be struggling much. But then on the Mercedes side, they were having to lift in the wet on Friday because they were bouncing around too much and they were breaking things. George Russell even, I think, said on the run-up to this weekend that he's been doing vertical training, whatever that means, to try and get his body used to the bouncing. Madness. At Aaron BXX, watching everyone porpoising down the straight. I love that gif. I don't think there's a better gif out there to actually demonstrate what the drivers are going through. That's good stuff, Aaron. I like that. Now, there were dull moments in this race. I'm not going to deny it whatsoever, but the pit stops around lap 19 were quite interesting. At Joe Gamer 6P, me watching the pit stops. It was pretty intense. I think you had Hamilton and Ocon, I believe it was, having some contact. And then there was an Aston Martin being released into the path of both of them. And it was just a little bit chaotic. I think Ted even said, because he was speaking at the time, like, there's been a crash in the pit lane. Hadn't really, though, Ted, had there, because they were all driving out the pits. There was a small amount of contact, don't get me wrong, but Ted had kind of described it like a car was upside down in the middle of the pit lane, but it certainly wasn't that bad, but it was pretty chaotic. I'll give him that. At Beth_Agius, everyone in the pit lane. Of course, when Danny Rick went out there on the dry tyres a lap before, because he was a bit of a, I guess, test lab rat or whatever you want to call him. Danny Rick's not a rat, but you know what I mean. Like, he was the one that could test whether the dries were going to work. He went out there, green, purple sectors, everyone rushed in, and that was the result. Now, this was a big talking point, and it wasn't anything to do with the racing. In fact, it was the lack of racing because DRS was not enabled. At Stewie_III, looking for DRS at the Imola GP like. I think we've got another one. At Arlo Kearns, everyone screaming at the TV for DRS. It's just, I didn't quite understand it. Of course, we have new race directors involved. We don't have Michael Massey anymore. They run the show how they like, and one of the things they can do is decide when DRS is activated after a wet period of the race, and they just decided it was never. Sometimes we've even seen DRS activated when intermediates are still on the car, and it's just the fact that there's a dry line, which for me makes the most sense. But for them, they were like, no, we want to see 1% of moisture on the track before we turn on DRS. And I think a lot of people were getting angry, and quite rightly. I didn't think that was the correct decision. What do you think? I've hit my microphone, but what do you think? Let me know in the comment section right now. Let me know. Should they have turned on DRS earlier? Did you get angry? Did you get frustrated? Let me know. Who has won Tweet of the Week? Tweet of the Week time now. Yes, this person is going to win an incredible Fanatec prize. Get them ready for F1 esports or whatever they want to do. And it goes to at Baxi Himanshu. Yo, where is the DRS? And it's a popular meme template, but it's one that I enjoyed, and DRS was in fact forgotten about. And Himanshu's going to win an amazing Fanatec prize. Hashtag WTF1 if you want to get involved, and if I choose you as Tweet of the Week, you win an amazing prize. So well done, Himanshu. That was good stuff. Another big talking point, and not necessarily battling for position. Well, they weren't battling for position. It was actually lapping at Einfach nur Lulu. Verstappen lapping Hamilton. Now, F1 Twitter has gone downhill. I think everybody can agree that over the last few years. Lots of just negativity, arguing, just horrific things going on there. But the one thing that majorly stands out is Verstappen versus Hamilton fans. Even though they're not actually battling on track anymore, they're still at each other's throats. And yeah, this didn't help where Verstappen lapped Hamilton. I'm sure it felt quite good for Max and terrible for Lewis. I think he spoke to Toto on the radio after the race. Toto was apologising for his car, but you look at George Russell, he did a pretty good job, so maybe they went the wrong way with Lewis's setup, or I don't know. But still, that's going to have hurt. So I'm sorry, LH fans, you must be hurting right now. Like me, I'm hurting right now because, well, we'll get on to it. At Flickfloof, I think you've had 2 submissions. Well done, Flickfloof. Lewis Hamilton versus Gasly as a GIF. Mr. Bean GIFs. If you've watched Internet's Best Reactions for a while, you know they hit me right in the heart. I used to watch Mr. Bean all the time as a kid, and this is one of the best memes for showing someone not being able to overtake someone else. Lewis Hamilton could not get through on Pierre Gasly. I think we saw this. They could have, and I say they, Formula One, could have been playing the same clip 15 times and we would not have known. That could have been 15 different occasions, or it could have just been one played 15 times. But Lewis could not get through on Pierre. Pierre could not get through on Alex Albon, and it was the epitome of a DRS train. And Lewis is not happy. At Rob_Horak, Pierre and Lewis every single lap. Put Alex Albon in that equation, and that's a perfect meme. Those 3 were just stuck together for, what, a third of the race? Half of the race? I don't know. This one is beautiful, simple, and probably runner-up for Tweet of the Week. At Bents 178093348 POV, you are Sir Lewis Hamilton. Simple, effective, and very true. Right, okay, let's talk about it then, shall we? Let's talk about Charles Leclerc binning 3rd place at Lebowski. McQueen, replay of Leclerc. He was doing all right, wasn't he? It was 3rd place. It was damage limitation. Max, it was far too quick in that Red Bull. Perez seemed to have pretty much Leclerc, the measure of Leclerc over most of the race after jumping him at the start. And obviously Norris got through as well, which didn't help Charles. But yeah, clearly he made a mistake, went in far too quickly into that chicane in the middle sector and tried, I think Nico Rosberg said he tried to maybe save it by cutting a bit more. Didn't work because his Ferrari went flying. And then he spun, and to be fair, I'm not going to be too sad about it because he didn't rip his left front off, which I thought had happened when he hit the wall. Charles Leclerc does make quite a few mistakes, doesn't he? We've seen it over the course of this weekend. He pushes really hard. He's got an unbelievable amount of talent, but he is prone to a mistake. And if he wants to win this championship, we can't see too many of those because he may well look back at Imola and think that is quite a few points that I gave away for no real reason. There wasn't any pressure from behind. Of course, he was trying to get Perez, but pushed too hard. And I can't really defend him. Hopefully he'll learn a lot from this. He is very hard on himself, is Charles Leclerc. Still leads the championship by over a victory, I think it is. So, it is learnings, but he can't have too many more of those if he wants to be the champ at the end of the season. At Formula Miguel, Tifosi right now. Of course, not only Charles Leclerc, but Carlos Sainz being beached in the gravel from lap 1. They probably expected a lot more, did the Tifosi, and it did not work out. It was a Red Bull 1-2, so lots of pain. At crispy_Patrick, the amount of tweets I receive when Leclerc has something go wrong. Live look at Matty W. I didn't die. I died up until the point where I saw him drive out the wall and actually he was okay and still finished 6th. It's some points lost, but it's not the end of the world. Now, the end of the race actually spiced up quite a lot. Of course, you had Leclerc in the wall. He was coming back through and passing a few people on fresh, soft tyres. But you also had Bottas versus Russell. At Jojo the Dodo, Bottas versus Russell flashbacks. Of course, Russell was in front at this time in P4. Bottas chasing him down in P5. Didn't manage to get through on him, but I'm sure deep down, Valtteri really wanted to get through. A bit of revenge after last year where they had that crash. And of course, George said some choice words about Valtteri back then. I think they've smoothed it over by now, but Valtteri definitely wanted to put one on Mercedes. Didn't manage it, but a great result for Bottas once again in that Alpha. At the crystal case, I must have missed this Leclerc meme, but I'm going to include it anyway, even though it hurts. Perez seeing Charles spin, and it is, well, not Mr. Bean, I think that's Johnny English actually, but either way, it's still Rowan Atkinson. A great meme, and yeah, Perez. As well, let's talk about Perez very quickly. Very good. You know, he wasn't quite on the match of Max Verstappen's pace, but he did what he needed to do. He got ahead of Leclerc at the start. He had the match for the Ferrari for pretty much the entire race. Finished P2, Red Bull 1-2. Great result for Sergio. Now, this was my favourite moment of the race weekend, and it wasn't even during a session. It was the cool-down room at Nando Lorry's. F1 listening to the WTF1 fans, well, I think just F1 fans in general, request to bring the cool-down room back. Oh, yes, another one at Cap Jost, seeing the cool-down room come back. It was great. I think they all get on quite well, Perez, Verstappen and Norris, especially Verstappen and Norris, that they've, you know, karted together and they play a lot of games together, and it was just brilliant to just sit there, no one talking over them, chatting for a couple of minutes, I think it was, and they were talking about the race, and I was honestly just sat there watching the TV like, this is amazing, keep going, please, keep going.
It's time for Social Media Team Championship.
Okay, it's Social Media Team Championship time now, and yes, we have got maybe some new submissions, you'd have to say. Some new teams getting into the fray of this championship. Who has scored in the top 3? In third place, we have the reigning champions, Haas F1, lap 55 of 63, after Leclerc's incident. Of course, you must have seen that karting video from back in the day, Verstappen versus Leclerc. They had some karting problem, and Leclerc called it an incident, and Haas decided they wanted to score some points as well in the Social Media Team Championship, and they did. 1 point, well done. In second place, we have Red Bull. Max is working his way through lapped traffic. Now, this would be quite a normal tweet, but I believe this was tweeted at the time they lapped Lewis Hamilton. So it's savage, and it deserves 2 points. And finally, the winners of the Social Media Team Championship, and probably for the first time this year, are McLaren F1. It's wet. I love this video so much. It's brilliant. I love it. There's nothing that I dislike or would change about this video. McLaren, well done. You get maximum points. And a podium for Lando. I mean, Lando was brilliant. I don't know why I'm going into a Lando update, but I just feel like I should. Brilliant. Podium, just on his own, chilling for the whole race. Lovely. That's 1 point for Haas, 2 points for Red Bull, and 3 points for McLaren.
And now it's time for Race Rundown with your host, Matthew Gallagher.
Race rundown time now, and I did ask if you wanted this segment to stay or go, and a lot of you said stay. So here we are, some pain for you all. The finishers of the Imola Grand Prix were Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell, Bottas, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Vettel, Magnussen, Stroll, Alonso. That's Albon. That's Albon, Matt. Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell. I feel like I need to point. Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell, Bottas, Leclerc, Tsunoda. Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell, Bottas, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Vettel, Magnussen, Stroll, Albon. Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Russell, Bottas, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Vettel, Magnussen, Stroll, Albon, Gasly, Hamilton, Ocon, Zhou, Latifi, Schumacher, Ricciardo. I think that took more attempts than Hamilton trying to get past Gasly. I'm not even lying. The non-finishers were Alonso Sainz. Done. Right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching the internet's best reactions to the Emilia Romagna Imola Grand Prix. If you want to get involved next time, use the hashtag WTF1, and if you win Tweet of the Week, you could win an amazing Fanatec prize. Thank you to Fanatec for sponsoring this series all season long. We've got a podcast coming up, which you can watch live tomorrow if you are part of Team WTF1. If not, we'll release it on Tuesday. We've got a video coming out tomorrow, which is reactive about, I believe, paint, but that's TBC. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for Miami. And I might be doing internet's best reactions from a different place than my home. That's all I'm going to say. See you soon. Bye-bye!